"You've never needed us, Clara. You don't even know what love looks like." That was the last thing my mother said before she canceled my housewarming. No apology, no hesitation, just her voice steady, polished, final. An hour later, she wired my sister $1 million for her new penthouse in Lisbon. I got a text that read, "We won't make it. You'll understand." Understand what, exactly? That affection in our family always came with receipts? That I'd been strong for so long they mistook it for not needing anyone? The candles I'd lit flickered once, then died in the wind. Beyond the glass, the Atlantic bled into the dark, cold, and endless. I didn't cry. I didn't even curse. I just looked at the empty table I'd built with my own hands and thought, maybe love was never meant to sit here anyway. If you've ever felt erased by the people who were supposed to love you, hit like, subscribe, and stay. Because what I said next changed everything. Let me take you back to where this story really began. When I was 8, my mother threw a party for my sister's piano recital. There were flowers, photographers, a catered dinner that smelled like butter and applause. Sienna wore a silk dress, the color of champagne, sitting under lights that seemed made for her skin. When she finished her piece, people stood and clapped like she'd just cured loneliness itself. I remember handing her the bouquet I'd helped pick, watching my mother kiss her cheek and whisper, "She's extraordinary." Then her eyes drifted to me briefly before turning to refill a glass. No one asked if I wanted to play. No one noticed the small notebook tucked under my arm, filled with sketches of circuits and code. That night, while Sienna opened gifts in the living room, I sat in the laundry room, tinkering with an old radio that had stopped working. When it finally hummed back to life, I smiled into the silence. It wasn't applause, but it was honest. By 15, I'd learned what made my mother proud: performance, not persistence. Sienna got a grand piano for her birthday. I got a used laptop and a line that still echoes today. "You're the strong one, Clara. You'll be fine." Strength, in her mouth, wasn't a compliment. It was a dismissal dressed as pride. At 17, I entered a national coding contest. First place. They called my name on stage, lights blinding, people cheering. When I sent Mom the photo, she replied hours later, "Congrats, darling. Sienna just got into the Paris Art Foundation. Can you believe it?" I stared at the text until the letters blurred, feeling the same hollow satisfaction of a voice echoing back from a tunnel. Technically sound, but still alone. College came with more of the same. While Sienna studied art in Paris on $1 million fund, my parents proudly announced at dinner parties. I was working nights in a co-working basement, feeding vending machine meals to a dream no one believed in. Every time I asked for help, I got the same answer. "You're independent. You'll figure it out." Maybe I did, but some things aren't meant to be figured out. They're meant to be felt like absence, like the quiet ache of being looked through instead of at. By 21, I stopped asking for attention and started building proof instead. I graduated early, founded a startup that designed modular smart homes, technology meant to build connection for people who lived alone. The irony wasn't lost on me. Every algorithm I wrote, every line of code, was a quiet apology to myself. When the prototype finally worked, a living space that adjusted to emotion, that brightened when you smiled and dimmed when you cried, I called my mother, trembling with pride. She picked up mid-laughter. Dinner party noise filled the background, glasses clinking. "That's nice, darling," she said. "Sienna just got her first gallery show. Isn't that wonderful?" It was always wonderful when it was Sienna. For me, it was nice, always nice. A few months later, I asked if she'd consider investing $50,000 in the company. Not a handout, an investment, papers, and all. Her reply came through text the next morning. "We've just sent Sienna to Paris again." "You're the strong one, Clara. You'll find a way." That sentence built an entire wall inside me. Brick by brick, excuse by excuse. So I found my own way. I slept in shared apartments, pitched to people who never looked up from their phones, ate dinner standing over a sink. But 2 years later, when my startup was acquired for 7 figures, my phone lit up again with her name this time. Not to say I'm proud. To ask if I'd consider lending Sienna money for her next creative phase. I said no. Politely, firmly. And the silence that followed felt cleaner than any approval I'd ever chased. When I bought the ocean villa in Algarve, I didn't send them pictures. I didn't tell them how the windows caught the morning light like forgiveness, or how the sea sounded like breathing when you stood by the terrace. I just built it the way I'd built everything alone. But even silence has an echo. A month before the housewarming, Mom called. Her tone was soft, rehearsed. "We're so proud of you, darling. You've made quite a name for yourself." Then, almost too casually, she added, "Sienna's moving into her new penthouse next week. We're wiring her the deposit." I didn't understand what she was saying until later. Until the night her text arrived, canceling on me like I was a dinner reservation, not a daughter. That was the moment everything aligned. Every nice, every "you'll be fine," every dollar I was never worth. And for the first time, I wasn't hurt. I was awake. That night, the air felt heavier than it should have. The kind of stillness that happens right before a storm. The text from my mother sat open on the kitchen counter. The words already starting to feel like architecture, cold, deliberate, symmetrical. I turned off my phone. The villa around me was silent, except for the faint hum of the sea. I walked to the center of the living room, pulled out a roll of tracing paper, and began to draw. Not a building this time. A table. Long, wide, solid enough to hold everything I'd ever carried alone. I marked every seat with the precision of an architect and the tenderness of a child who still wanted to be chosen. Every chair had a name, people who had once been overlooked, dismissed, forgotten. My old mentor who was fired for making too much noise. The neighbor who ate Christmas dinner alone. The intern I couldn't save from being blamed for a mistake she didn't make. Each of them would have a seat. Each of them would see what love looked like when it wasn't earned through performance. Hours passed. The candles burned down to wax pools. Outside, the Atlantic broke against the cliffs again and again, like time insisting I move forward. At dawn, I dragged the olive wood table I'd built years ago into the center of the terrace. Its surface was scarred and uneven, but it had survived every move, every storm. I ran my hand over it, remembering the first night I built it in that damp garage. How the smell of sawdust drowned out the noise of another family dinner happening without me. That table had always waited for this night. I started writing invitations. Simple cards with one sentence printed in soft ink. For those who were never given a seat. By sunrise, the stack was ready. 30 names, 30 envelopes. No family, no pretense, no hierarchy. Just people who knew the weight of being unseen. For the first time in years, I felt something close to calm. Not joy, not revenge, just clarity. I stood by the window, watching the sea turn gold, and whispered to the quiet house. They never gave me a place to belong. So I built one. The following night, the villa didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a blueprint coming to life, every corner holding a purpose, every silence a promise. I moved through the rooms barefoot, laying out linen, adjusting light, chasing balance the way some people chase approval. No music played. Only the sound of waves and my own breath, steady but heavy. Each flicker of the lamp brushed against the walls like memory. The scent of olive wood and sea salt filled the air, clean, sharp, grounding. I rearranged the chairs until none of them faced away from the ocean. No one would sit with their back to beauty tonight. No one would feel what I'd felt my entire life. The hum of laughter you can hear but never join. As I worked, I thought about the millions my parents spent to build Sienna's dreams. The gallery in Paris, the penthouse in Lisbon, the way my mother's voice lit up whenever she spoke her name, and then the quiet that followed whenever she said mine. I used to wonder what made Sienna more deserving. Now I understood it was never about worth. It was about reflection. Sienna mirrored the woman my mother wanted to be seen as. Glossy, adored, easy to love. I was the reminder of everything she'd buried: ambition, solitude, defiance. The realization didn't hurt, it settled. Like dust finding its place on untouched shelves. Before midnight, I wrote one more invitation. No name, no address. Just a single sentence. For the seat they left empty. I placed it on the table's head, even though there was no head tonight. No hierarchy, no family name carved in the wood. Just 30 chairs, equal and waiting. When I stepped back, I saw what I had built. Not revenge, not defiance. A map of belonging, drawn in wood and silence. Outside, the wind rose again, tugging the curtains like it wanted to see. The moon cast a long, pale stripe across the floor, the only light that had never betrayed me. For the first time, I whispered my mother's words. But this time, they sounded different. "You're the strong one, Clara." A pause. A breath. "I finally am." The night of the dinner arrived like a tide, slow, certain, impossible to turn back. By 7, the terrace glowed with strings of warm light swaying in the wind. The air smelled of grilled sea bass and rosemary, of something new beginning. The guests arrived one by one. Faces I hadn't seen in years, people who once sat in the shadows of someone else's table. Nora, the retired teacher who'd lived next door to my parents for 40 years, walked in first. She used to slip me cookies through the fence when Mom forgot I hadn't eaten. Behind her came Julian, the mentor who lost his job for defending me during my first internship. And Maya, the waitress who'd once told me, "People like us don't get seats, we build them." I had found her again through an old email thread. Each of them stopped at the threshold, staring at the long olive wood table that stretched toward the ocean. No centerpieces, no labels, no head seat. Just a single engraved line across the surface that read, "Everyone has a seat." They smiled, uncertain but moved, as if the table itself had been waiting for them. And in a way, it had. A documentary crew from Lisbon was there too. They'd reached out weeks before, asking to feature my villa in a series called Women Who Build. At first, I'd almost said no. But now, I understood why I had agreed. The story wasn't about architecture or design. It was about reclamation. The director, a quiet woman named Inez, approached me as the guests began to sit. "Would you like us to film the dinner?" she asked. Her Portuguese accent softened every word. I nodded. "Just don't direct anything, let it breathe." The cameras rolled quietly in the corners, capturing laughter, clinking glasses, the hum of belonging. No drama, no speeches. Just people finally seen. When dessert was served, honey figs and almond cake, someone asked if my family would join later. The question hung there, fragile. I smiled, gentle but steady. "They were invited," I said, my eyes tracing the one chair left empty at the far end of the table. "But some people spend their lives avoiding rooms where mirrors exist." No one replied. They didn't need to. The sea answered for all of us. A deep, endless sound, like forgiveness that no one had to name. 3 weeks later, the film aired. I hadn't told anyone when. I didn't need to. The world has a way of finding stories built on truth. The documentary opened with a drone shot of the Algarve cliffs. Gold, light, waves breaking, the villa standing alone like something carved from quiet. Then it cut to the terrace, to the table, to the guests, raising their glasses beneath the sentence etched in olive wood. "Everyone has a seat." No narration, no explanation. Just the sound of wind and laughter. And me standing at the far end, a woman whose silence said more than any monologue could. By morning, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Articles called the dinner a portrait of chosen family. Clips flooded social media with captions like, "The architect who built belonging." Somewhere in that storm of recognition, a message arrived from a number I hadn't saved but would never forget. "Mom, saw the film. You made us look cruel." Then another. "Mom, you could have invited us." And a final one. "Mom, this is your fault, Clara. Sienna's humiliated. You've destroyed this family." I read each word slowly, like a prayer to a God I no longer believed in. Then I set the phone face down on the table. The screen kept lighting up. Dad calling, Sienna calling, unknown numbers flashing like sirens. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I walked outside. The sea was calm that evening. The table still stood where it had been, its surface catching the dying sun, the empty chair gleaming pale against the darkening horizon. I thought about how much they'd spent. The millions wired away, the dinners hosted, the photographs framed to prove we were whole. And how, somehow, the only thing that ever mattered was the chair they refused to fill. A gull screamed somewhere above the waves, and for the first time, I heard it not as a cry but as a release. I didn't delete my mother's messages. I left them unread, like artifacts from a language I no longer spoke. That night, I sat alone at the table with a cup of tea, steam rising between me and the sea, and whispered, "Some families aren't broken. They're designed that way." The nights after the documentary felt different. Not louder, just cleaner. As if the house itself had exhaled after holding its breath for years. I woke earlier, slept deeper. The air smelled of salt and cedar oil, the kind of peace that doesn't ask permission to exist. No new messages came. The silence felt almost kind. One evening, I carried a bottle of red wine to the terrace. The sky was turning the color of rust and honey, the horizon dissolving into the sea. The table waited, still dressed in linen from the night of the dinner. I poured a glass, sat down at the same spot, and for the first time, filled the empty chair. I didn't toast to success or vindication. I toasted to stillness, to the quiet proof that I had survived, without needing their approval as evidence. The wind lifted the edge of the tablecloth, revealing the carved words beneath my fingertips. Everyone has a seat. I traced the grain of the olive wood, feeling each groove like a memory resurfacing, each knot like a healed wound. Then, slowly, I added one more line below it with a thin blade, the letters deliberate, steady, even me. The blade caught the light as the first stars appeared. Somewhere across the ocean, I imagined my mother watching another rerun of Perfection, still convincing herself she'd done everything right. Maybe she even believed it. But belief doesn't make truth. It just decorates denial. The waves broke softly against the cliffs, a rhythm older than all of us. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and let the sound carry what was left of the ache away. For the first time, I wasn't anyone's daughter, or sister, or disappointment. I was just Clara, the woman who built a home out of what they left behind. And as the moonlight slid across the table, I realized something simple, almost weightless. Peace doesn't need witnesses. It only needs a seat of its own.